Epic sages, your home for adventure. Crafting worlds where your story's the center. Gear and tools for the brave and the bold. Your journey begins as the tale unfolds.
Step inside, where the legends begin. Maps, dice, and stories, the magic within. Adventure in mind, we're here by your side. At Epic Sages, where heroes collide. Every campaign, every turn, every fight, we give you the tools, you shape the night. Epic Sages is where you find satisfaction, with adventure in mind and your own passion. We control the board, you control the action. Epic Sages, where from online to in-store, we've got what you seek. Gear for your quest, world so unique. Your heroes rise, we light the way. Epic Sages, your guide through the fray. No matter the path, no matter the game, your story is yours, we fuel the flame. Epic Sages is where you find satisfaction, with adventure in mind and your own passion. We control the board, you control the action. Epic Sages, where legends find traction. From your first roll to battles well fought, we give you the gear for the stories you sought. At Epic Sages, the tools are designed with passion and care and adventure in mind. Your world, your rules, your epic tale. With Epic Sages, you will never fail. Epic Sages is where you find satisfaction, with adventure in mind and your own passion. We control the board, you control the action. Epic Sages, where legends find traction. We light the way, you shape the venture. Epic Sages, your home for adventure. From online to in-store, we've got what you seek. Gear for your quest, world so unique. Your heroes rise, we light the way. Epic Sages, your guide through the fray. No matter the path, no matter the game, your story is yours, we fuel the flame. Epic Sages is where you find satisfaction, with adventure in mind and your own passion. We control the board, you control the action. Epic Sages, where legends find traction. We light the way, you shape the venture. Epic Sages, your home for adventure.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to tonight's episode. We're calling it A Piece of Me, adding yourself to your stories. That's our topic. That's what we're talking about. We got 2 of our 3-star guests tonight. We're still waiting on Guy. Hopefully he'll show up soon. But in the meantime and in between time, we got 2 new wonderful star guests to introduce you guys to. I'm going to go in easy order, so I'm going to start with David. David, who are you? What do you do? Where can we find you? All that fun stuff.
I am David, or Danger Dave, whatever you want to call me. I am physically located in northern Montana, electronically located mostly on Facebook. I do coaching around helping people rewrite their stories. So this is a great topic for me.
See, every once in a while, the universe aligns perfectly. So, Danger Dave is the easiest way to find you? That's all your ats and things like that?
Yeah, Danger Dave coaching right now.
All right, easy peasy lemon squeezy. Jumping over to Laura.
Hey.
Laura, who are you?
My
Where
name
can find you? All that fun stuff.
My name is Lara. I am a full-time business and marketing consultant working for myself at this point, and my business is called Bright Crescent Atelier, and it is bespoke business consulting. I am a neurodivergent, among other things, and I find that being authentic and being myself really helps me connect with people. And strangely, I've ended up with an entire plate of clients that are all neurodivergent, and I didn't do that on purpose. So it seems to be working. I'm kind of attracting my people, and my website is the best place to go. I've got links for all the things, and my website is laramckusky.com.
All right, easy peasy lemon squeezy as well. And we'll get back to that at the end. You do have a lot of links, which is exciting. There's all kinds of fun places to find you. So, tonight's topic, right? So, a piece of me, adding yourself to your stories. When we say, and this is how we like to start most episodes, but when we say a piece of me, what is the first thing that pops into your head? I'll give you guys a second to think about that. But when you say a piece of me, what is that just is there, right? I'll just start with Laura. Laura, what is that image for you that just pops in your head right away?
Um, I actually think of myself as a little kid and remembering that I've been writing stories since I was 6 years old, and um, I'm an artist. I'm a writer. I used to write a lot of poetry. I just think everything I do is creative and includes a piece of me. You just can't not do that as a creative, in my opinion.
Interesting. Okay, David, what about you? When that piece of me hits, what's that first image you get?
A piece of me. Yeah, that's for me, the story that comes up is my second time, emphasis on second time, trying to play through like Star Wars, The Old Republic, or Knights of the Old Republic. That was it.
Kodor. Yep.
Yeah, KOTOR, the first one. I did the first one. I'll usually tend towards the good side of things, the light side. And I'm like, I'm going to do a specifically dark side run. And I could not make it past the third decision because I just could not go that far against the grain of my authentic self.
Yeah, it's funny.
So one of those lessons that I learned
It's a
20
it's a
years ago.
it's a fun, challenging thing to be a person that you don't want to be, right? Especially, I don't want to be mean to these NPCs. They got feelings, right? They're just computer code, but they feels terrible to tell them mean things. Younger, jumping over to you. Same question.
I like to I think of lived experience, like the places you've been, the things you've done, things of that nature, how you felt in that moment when you went to some place that's completely foreign to you, a completely new experience. What were the thoughts that were, flowing through your head in that moment? Whenever you were struggling with something really hard in your life, like what was that emotion behind it? Like what beckoned those emotions to the forefront of your mind and everything like that?
Okay, those are all great ways to look at it. I mean, kind of on a similar note, the first thing that pops into my head is like a puzzle piece version of myself, right? That is always the thought. You know, I mean, putting yourself together, building yourself, so on and so forth. But in the context of TTRPGs, we generally use this as more of a when you're building a character. You're putting a little bit of yourself into that person. That could be you are making yourself in whatever world you're playing in, or you could just be they have the same color eyes as you. They have your hairstyle. They are the same height as you. That's my favorite one. All my characters are 5'9". Just makes it easy from perspective wise, so I know what the heck they're looking at all times. Um, but there's lots of ways we do this in our work. So jumping into David. David, what is the most likely thing you're going to infuse into your clients when you're talking to them about whatever you're working on them with? What is something that you bring to them and be like, here's a little bit from me for you?
A little bit from me for them is focusing on things as a story, being able to make that separation from this is you in the moment and in the event, and then this is you retelling that story.
Okay, easy answer. I like that. Laura, jumping over you, same question. When you are working with your clients, what part of yourself do you think you kind of implant into them?
Um, I think what I've been encountering the most is working with creatives who are really good at what they do, like writing, or I also represent a painter, and she does a wide variety of things, and they're all women, which I think is also an indicator of why this happens. But they'll say things like, "Well, I'd like to do this, but this part of it scares me." And I'm like, "Then we won't do it that way." And they're like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's try it this way. How about this? Does this work for you?" I thought that was like a business rule. Like I can do it that way. And I'm like, "You can do it any way you want to. There are no business police coming after you if we do it this other way." And they're like, oh my Lord, like you can just see how freeing that is and how it explodes their brain. And, I'm an outside the box thinker. Most neurodivergents are. And yet we get so locked into this is the should, right? This is how we should be doing. I feel like I said to my mom once, I feel like people are going to should me to death. I'm like, I really need people to stop saying this is how you should be doing it, or what you should do. And I'm like, don't finish that sentence. So I am working with women that some of them are trying to get a side hustle off the ground and they're working full time. They're trying to write a book while they're managing children and there's just a ton going on in their lives. And I'm like, then make it work for you. Then don't do it this way. Then we won't use that social platform if you hate it. I can just not, I thought I had to use it. No, just these are your social links and that's where you are. Oh my gosh, I didn't know I could do it literally all the time. I didn't know I could do that. And the relief on their faces when I tell them that they don't have to do something they were dreading and assuming as a business person they were going to have to do this thing. And I'm like, no, we're going to make our own plan. We're going to do it this way. And that's really personal to me. I've been through a lot. Um, and I've had to really learn, one, forge your own path, do what works for you, and two, ironically, boundaries, which seem to be kind of diametrically opposed. But personal boundaries are very important, and that goes hand in hand with no, I'm doing it my way. No, firm boundary. I'm not doing that. I'm going to do this thing over here, and I don't need your permission or your approval. Um, and I think it's just, am I allowed to curse on here?
Yes,
Roger?
feel free. You're good to go.
I think at 48, I just have no fucks left to give, and I'm just doing whatever. And if people want to be upset about the way that I choose to live my life, then that's on them. And I bring that directly to working with my clients for sure.
The I don't give a fuck energy is powerful in business, right? When you start saying that to people, it moves them out of the way or puts them where they need to
Yes.
be, right?
Yes, I agree.
Genuine authenticity.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Anger,
Yes.
anger is a powerful emotion, which is a part of everyone, right? So, kind of before I move on with that thought, Younger, what about you? When you're working with our clients and doing stuff on our end of things, how do you impart yourself into your characters or your stories on a basic level?
You cut me off. I wasn't even gonna go into the character and story part.
Oh, okay.
I was gonna do a new experience. I'm not usually into the sales department, but here I was recently selling. Since we're in the business of D&D and stuff, we sell dice, or LARP swords and those things. And it's like, well, if I was to buy dice, which I obviously do, like what are the things that like I'm genuinely interested, that I think the clients would enjoy. And some of them have a fantastical little jingle. It sounds like little wind chimes, when you shake them. It's like, I love this thing. I was like, I know somebody else has to love this as much as I love this, or like that verdant green, like it's absolutely gorgeous. Like I have never seen another set of dice like this set of dice, or this piece is a unique piece, and just being like imparting that onto somebody else who also sees that same spark. They're like, oh yes, like I feel that, like this is so cool. And just playing off that.
Okay, that's a fantastic way to go about imparting yourself is in the sales side of things, right? Which is where lots of business people have a hard time with because sometimes you have a hard time selling whether it's yourself or products, right? But kind of on that note, right? When we're talking more the business side of things, I'll reshift and refocus here. From that side of perspectives, jumping into how each one of us connects with the things we have, right? The things that we sell, the things we jump into, because that's not necessarily the clients themselves. It's a more personal story, right? With the things that you're selling. Sometimes it's literally you're selling yourself, right? Both of you guys are coaches, in one regard or the other. So you're really the product you're selling is your expertise and your style, right? And that isn't all of you, right? I made a puzzle reference at the beginning, right? That's just a chunk of who you are, right? It's not everything. It's not a bit of it. So thinking on that part, when you're doing the more personal pouring into your stuff, what is your favorite thing to look for when you are refining that part of the process? I'll give you a second to think on that because that's a hard question. Um, but let's see here. Jaeger's over here coughing. Don't talk to me. David, we'll jump to you on this one to start.
My favorite thing to lean into as I'm finding ways to put myself into the products.
Correct.
It's just finding the strangest places for the inspiration and being able to pull from that. Like the big framework that I've got right now that's been working really, really well, I got from just a random YouTube video of somebody talking about how to create authentic and multi-dimensional characters. So as I'm digging into that, I'm like, okay, so to create a character, you need these 5 things that makes them not just a 2-dimensional flat piece of paper, stick figure. And every one of us is definitely a 3-4-dimensional being at minimum, with our transit through time as that 4th dimension. There's all sorts of flaws, all sorts of different things. And okay, all 5 of these pieces come up in a really good coaching call or sales call or any of that. So let me rejuggle this around and see how it works. Just give it a quick flow. And all that from my random consumption of fiction writing YouTube videos.
Nice. It wasn't Epic Sages, was it? When you get that inspiration credit?
Not this time.
Dang it! Next time we'll get them later. Laura, jumping over to you.
It's funny because I was talking to a friend of mine just the other day, and he said, you use the term neurodivergent a lot. Tell me what that means to you. Like when you say you're neurodivergent, what does that mean? So I'm explaining things to her, and she's kind of interjecting and asking questions. And at the end, she said, "Aren't you training people?" I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "You know so much about this. Why isn't that one of your services?" And I just felt my heart sing a little bit. And I'm kind of like trying to follow things that I enjoy and stop forcing myself to do things that I do not enjoy, and in kind of all facets of my life. And so as I'm looking for ways to kind of branch out and add new services, that's what I'm looking for, is like the little, oh, it made my heart sing. Like there's just this little mini like hallelujah chorus that goes on that lets me know I'm on the right path. Like, oh no, this fits my interest and my skills. My bachelor's degree is a double bachelor's degree in elementary education and liberal studies. So teaching comes very naturally to me, and I do it a lot with my clients. So I think that's kind of where I have really just kind of recently learned that I do need to kind of marry the things that I enjoy and the things that I'm good at. Like somebody asked me the other day, like, can I send you a client that wants social media help? And I was like, no. Like it came out of my mouth before I had even thought of it. And I was like, I've been doing that for 10 years. It's boring and repetitive and tedious, and I don't want to do it anymore. And she was like, oh, okay. And I was like, wow, I don't think I knew that about myself. And so I'm trying to like do that, to put more of myself in, and not that should thing again, where it's like, you should be doing this. It's like, no, I'm going to do something that appeals to me and that I enjoy. And so that's kind of what I've been using to lead myself this time around with going out on my own and doing full-time freelance work.
Nice. So I do have a follow-up question though, because brought up a word that kind of it goes back to that boundary setting that you talked about a little bit ago.
Sure.
That where do you draw the line between the discomfort and having to push through things because something's kind of hard, and something that you're just not willing to do, right? Because it's like you're done with that, right? Because that's a really fine line for a lot of people that are trying to just do the things that they want to do or the things that they enjoy. Like, how do you personally measure your this is comfortable and I'm willing to do it, or I'm willing to work through this pain at all? Or is it like if it's discomfortable at all, you're out?
So that relates very specifically to my neurodivergence. I was just diagnosed ADHD 2 years ago. All 3 of my children are ADHD. I have an autism assessment this summer. Um, And so I've masked my whole life. And if you don't know what that means, it means to um, try to fit in, right? To pretend to be quote unquote normal, right? You're trying to follow the social guidelines, you're trying to follow behavior rules when you might feel hyperactivity urges. For girls, it's daydreaming and lack of focus. And it's a lot of things. As I've learned, ADHD is a lot of things. And I've spent my entire life trying to force myself to focus, trying to and doing all kinds of things that honestly parents or family members were telling me was the right way to go, the right path to follow. This is just how you do things. This is part of life. This is part of being an adult. I was told all of these things. And I poured my energy into trying to fit that mold my whole life. And as happens with many people once they're diagnosed, um, the mask just kind of falls apart and you realize how exhausting it is to do that all the time. You're just done. So I went from my 20s, oh my God, I was so busy all the time. And now I'm like, yeah, I don't need to add that to my plate. I can gauge that I don't time manage, I energy manage. I have to. And if I feel in my gut that I'm going to hate doing this, let's think about where's future Laura? How is she going to feel in 6 weeks? And if my gut instinct is she is going to be hating you, that's what she's going to be feeling, then I don't do it. And I don't force myself to do it. Again, we're back to that. I have no fucks left to give. Who is going to care except me? Come at me if you think that I should be doing a certain social media platform that I'm not. Argue with me about it. I am not competitive in that way. I am interested in doing what's best for me and my mental health and my family. And if some things are going to be a hard no and someone's going to tell me I can't do it that way, I'm always like, okay, watch me. If I fall flat on my face and I find it's something I absolutely have to do, which is rare, honestly, then I will figure out a different way to do it, or I'll figure out a way to delegate it, or pay someone to do it, or whatever I have to do to not actually have that on my plate. I am too old to spend energy I don't really have doing things that I do not want to do. There's very little that I will say to myself, oh, press through, stay up another 2 hours and finish this. I'm like, no, just tell the client I didn't have time, or it was more complicated than I thought, or whatever. But I am honest. But, I don't do a lot of pushing through anymore. It's exhausting, and I don't want that life for my children. I don't want them to be pushing through because for us, that means tend really hard or something else and finish something on somebody else's timeline or guidelines or what have you. And if you're finding yourself in that situation a ton, then that's not the place that you should be, my opinion.
Okay, interesting. I have another follow-up question, but this time it's for David. David, you talked about the fourth dimension being time, right? And as we talk about the pieces of ourself, I'm drawn to the Theseus ship. I always forget the name of it, right? Where you replace every piece and put it back together. How do you fold that into as people progress and change over time? So, like when you're dealing with a client over an extended period, and you get to watch their change and growth. Do you have any good experience of that where you can just be like, "This is something I've went through,"
Well,
even if
I
it's a personal
almost
level to
want to
start?
redirect it
Yeah, I'm
to
listening. Go
a
ahead.
slight teaching moment.
Yeah.
It, to me, that makes me think of the mechanics of memory.
Okay.
How every time you remember an event, you're actually remembering the last time you remembered the event. And bringing this back to stories, when you tell that event, you're telling the story. So as you keep on retelling it, the story changes slightly, a little bit. And Sometimes those changes are inadvertent because you forgot a couple of details, or you got a detail wrong, or you can specifically seed those changes in, where this, maybe this little thing about it didn't happen exactly that way. Maybe it happened this way. And as you start retelling the story like that, you get a slightly more positive shift and reduce any of the, well, some of the trauma from those earlier memories. And I've seen some drastic shifts in people in very short times by planting that seed of, all right, your needs in that scenario were met. What happens next? What do you believe as a result of that? And then carrying that forward.
Gotcha. You know, with a great example of that, both me and Younger were Army boys, and I can't tell you how many terrible, terrible stories we have that we can look on fondly because it's great now. You know, almost blowing up or going through something that wasn't so great. You know, happened pretty frequently. But also looking back, it wasn't that bad. It was fine. We're still alive, right? Um, and that's a fantastic example of reseeding those memories because sometimes that's what you got to do to make it through stuff, right? When you push forward, you just got to change things to the positive. There's a lot of power when you make the crappy parts of yourself a positive or a growth point for people retelling their stories, right? You can go through a lot of hell and still come out a solid looking piece of art. Younger, what about you? Jumping over to you because we didn't get to ask you the follow up question to your comment here. When you're talking about selling these new things, what was your favorite part about that? It's again relatively new experience for you.
Definitely just like seeing the same level of enthusiasm that I have whenever it's like I'm scoping out like, oh, what new products are cool that we could add to our store to make it interesting, make it fun. Um, something a little bit more unique, less generic. We have the generic stuff and we stock it, but like what are the things that are going to be really eye popping, right? And then seeing somebody else being like, oh, holy cow, I've never seen that before. That's so cool. And it's like that was the same emotion I saw whenever I saw it. And I was like, I love this color, I love this sound. I like this thing about it. And they point out the same detail that I was attracted to. Like that was really heartwarming.
Nice. You know, that's one of my favorite things about when we're doing sales is when we sell our liquid core dice, right? I don't know if either of you two have ever seen them before, but they have liquid and glitter and all the fun stuff inside them. Basically, they're miniaturized snowballs, snow globes in dice, right? Is the easiest way to think about them. And seeing someone shake it up for the first time and just be like, oh, every single time they get that face, it's just like, yes, I love it. And it's just one of those moments you get to watch someone have pure joy, right? That there's unfiltered, just like excitement about something cute, and the goblin brain is switching and everyone's happy, right? So like seeing all that is always a wonderful experience. So I feel you, I agree wholeheartedly. Jumping over to the next bit of our pieces of me. On a negative note, right? Sometimes the pieces of me are the stuff you lose along the way, right? Lots of stories revolve about losing your naivete or friends or things like that. So, kind of on the negative note, if you're up to share for it, is there something that you guys can think about that you've lost along the way that was either detrimental or beneficial, or one of each? If you're up to share, this could be kind of personal for you. I'll give you a second. Wahaha. You can pass on this one. Again, this is a pretty personal question. All right, Laura.
I've got some thoughts.
Yeah, David, go
on that, and it's as I reflect on those pieces of me that I lost, especially my own military time and growing up, and how I was programmed, conditioned to believe certain things about myself. For the longest time, I lost my ability to feel really anything. And that has finally been coming back after a lot of work over the last 2.5 years or so. And the more I'm doing the work, the more I'm realizing that those were lost as a form of protection. Just about all of these negative things, these negative traits that we don't like about ourselves, we built them up to protect ourselves from one thing or another. So once I could start seeing that for what it was and start, all right, thank you, numbness, for keeping me safe from this, and that, then I can start accepting it back in and like releasing pieces of it or integrating it into myself or whatever. And overall get a healthier, complex, three-dimensional picture of myself.
Nice. Yeah, I'm sure Younger can agree, but I have wholeheartedly been there. When I first got out, it was a lost emotion. You know, there's a lot of stuff that was just like didn't care about anything for quite some time until you pick up the pieces and be like, all right, I can be a person again. I know how to not stand still and take orders. I can make my own choices. But yeah. Laura, what about you?
Well, so I got married very young. I was 20, a military man, and he was an addict and an alcoholic, and we were together almost 14 years and had 3 kids. And probably a year into the divorce proceedings, I remember for some reason very specifically that I was making my bed. I'd had to move back in with my parents, and I was making my bed, and I felt really tired. And it suddenly popped into my head, fully formed. No one is coming to save you. Gonna have to do all this work yourself. Because divorce and going through court was re-traumatizing to the 9th degree. And my kids were very young when we separated. He became vicious and manipulative and vengeful, and it was horribly nasty when it didn't need to be. And I think it was so, I knew he had problems, but it was like he had a whole other side to him that I had never seen. I was so stunned by that, as well as struggling with this, going through this court system, which I liken to holding the hand of a stranger while you're walking through the dark, because you're depending on this attorney that you don't necessarily know very well, but you're paying a hell of a lot of money to, and they're telling you what you need to do and where you need to go. And as we have discussed, I'm not great at like following rules that I don't understand. So I'm being told, don't talk about this and don't say this about him and dress this way and pull your hair up and wear modest earrings. And I'm like, is this a game or is this my life? I just could not comprehend really what was happening. And I'm like working full time, and I suddenly only see my kids part of the time when I was a stay-at-home mom. And there were so many changes, most of them negative, one right after the other, that I then maintained for many years. And I was in survival mode. Was in survival mode the last few years of my marriage. I was in survival mode as we separated and divorced. And then I was in survival mode when I was finally out on my own as a single mom, trying to pay rent by myself. And literally every single little tiny thing was a battle with my ex, and he terrorized me and played some stalkerish behaviors and treated our children horribly. And I was literally, it was like one of my doctors said, it was like your gear shift was just jammed into fight or flight for like a decade. And your nervous system needs like an entire reset. And so I realized one day, like, I used to love music. I mean, I would dance in my room for hours as a teenager. I would dance around the house when I first got married while I was cleaning and listening to music. I taught my kids how to dance. And I suddenly realized one day, I don't remember the last time I listened to something or sang along with it, or definitely haven't danced in a very long time. And I thought, that's such a shame. I was part of like little school band all through, grade school and middle school. And music was always a part of our lives growing up. And it just made me feel really sad. And I've been trying really hard to like incorporate that into my life. Um, but I would definitely say that um, being stuck in survival mode, things were just like falling off. My brain just couldn't, I just couldn't handle it all. And reading fiction, which I used to be a voracious reader. But then at one point I was working like 5 jobs, so I just didn't have the time or energy to read. It was a habit I fell out of. And I've been trying to get back into that too, and telling myself, it's not a waste of time. No, set a timer for 30 minutes if you're worried about, I should be working or I should be doing laundry. Like, give yourself, a timer or something and do it. It's really good for helping your brain refill the well when you do creative work, to read or have other hobbies. So unfortunately, I think I just had laser focus for a long time, and my hobbies and the fun things that made me me um had fallen to the wayside over time. So I think those are probably the things, the little pieces of me that I have lost along the way that I'm currently trying to recover.
But on a positive note, it sounds like you are recovering some of them, right?
Yes, I'm trying for
Yeah.
sure.
See, that's good. Younger, what about you? I know there's a soft spot for you, so.
So, so no. I was thinking around and I was like, what is one that's most fitting, for the circumstance? And I think that one of the most impactful of like an everyday living experience is lack of the. I used to be incredibly athletic, like
Mm,
and I just what my time in the army just ended up busting up a bunch of stuff. Like my left hand, I can't extend outwards while it's I can extend it out like this, but I can't do that. So if I ever do anything on the keyboard, it's like I have to fully extend my arm before I can reach for it or whatever. You know, I used to run so fast, and it's like now it's like I can't hardly jog, without like my feet giving out on me. My legs pain. My joints they're just trash. They don't work the way they used to. If I work out, I gotta work out like using like a bicycle machine or something. Um,
mm.
just to like have something that's like stable and I'm not gonna worry too much. I lost tons of strength. I used to be able to do like over 36 pull-ups, muscle ups even and stuff. It's like now it's like I could maybe hang there for a bit. And so it's like I tried to do like some exercise and stuff, but just like the fact that I knew it was like, yes, I was peak physique, and then after sustaining injuries, just it's just like being like a hat, like a shell of the person you used to be, and it's like I'm not even old yet. So
I know, that's so heartbreaking.
yeah, it definitely was something that was like even just when I was in the cast and stuff, it was just like it frustrated me the fact I couldn't move my arm or anything. It's
Yeah, I
just like
guess so.
it's like damn, I'm like half a person. With like how I was viewing myself in the moment and everything, and like now I've adapted a little bit and I can do a little bit of stuff, but I can't like I'm never gonna be going climbing waterfalls, rock climbing, and stuff like that again. So it's just I have to adapt to the change, uh,
Yeah.
find other fun athletic activities that are maybe not as vigorous or strenuous,
Skydiving is
but
always
still
fun.
doable.
So push forward on that one. Because it is a lot to go through and like lose yourself as you kind of age and get older, or just suffer through things and have things pop off, right? Um, it's all leaving a little trail of yourself in the past, right? We talked about the fourth dimension and how people change. Sometimes when you lose a bit of yourself, though, you refine the core elements, right? So there is a positive outcome. You might become more of a sharper blade than where you started, right? You'll understand things better. We talked about losing your naivete, right? That's something pretty much everyone has to lose eventually, right? There are some truths to the world that are unfortunate and unkind, but with that, you then can see all the good that people do to keep that going as long as they can for others, right? You get to see the positivity that people bring to keep that around, especially for kids and things like that, right? But kind of reshifting off that one, and going into the defining the pieces of yourself, right, through your lived experiences and whatnot. Um, how do you guys make sure that you are refining the right parts of what you're working on with your clients when you are trying to sharpen their knives, essentially, right? Make their stories better. What is the easiest way that you do that? Where you just like, hey, this is the thing you focus on. How do you focus that, right? I'll start with ours for a second. Like, give you guys a little bit of thing. When we do ours, for building characters and doing the stories, we make people let go of their need to be in control of everything, right? Because we work with dice and it's a little chaotic, right? Our teaching style is very impromptu. You got to learn how to roll with the punches. You know what I mean? Dice are going to be evil, right? You're going to be like, I do this super cool thing, but you don't because you rolled a 1 and you fell down a hill, right? And you got to be able to move and roll with that. And then as a DM, right? Dealing with characters and players, you have a beautiful story set up. You have your Tolkien-esque adventure they're going to go on, and they immediately find the eagles. No adventure needed to be had. They just fly straight to the mountain, drop off the ring. That was really easy. Why is everyone freaking out about it, right? So being able to be okay with shifting the narratives, right, when you're telling the stories is super important. And as a character, as a player, you know, when the plan doesn't go to how you imagine it's going to go, and being able to push through that idea and still run with things is a powerful way of storytelling, right?
It's a life skill.
It's a life skill. Yes, 100%. I agree. Laura, since you talked first, I want to make you answer the question first.
It's funny because when I'm working with my clients, I've been in therapy for a long time now. I do have a PTSD diagnosis, and I mentioned earlier, all of my clients are neurodivergent, and only one of them has been in therapy. So I bring a lot of that with me, and they'll say, "Well, we have to do such and such," and I'll go, "You don't sound too thrilled about that," and they're like, "Yeah, no, I hate it." And I'm like, "Oh, it makes you so you don't feel good about that at all?" And they're like, "No, I really don't want to do it." I'm like, "Then why are you doing it?" And then they stop and think, and it's like, well, I think I read it somewhere. Like, don't I have to do that? And we're back around to breaking open those boxes that we put ourselves into. I bring my therapized approach. I bring an outside the box thinking approach and encouraging my clients to think outside the box. I ask them a lot of questions, but I also encourage them to follow their gut, and I'll say, well, they'll sound kind of resigned to something. Okay, well, yeah, I guess we can start a blog. And I'm like, how's that making you feel? And they're like, not great. I'm like, okay, then let's not do that. So it's a little bit of therapy, it's a little bit of life experience, it's cheerleading, it is mentoring. Um, I kind of I have an education degree. I use all the tools in my toolbox, to help my clients every single day. And I love it because there's nothing tedious and repetitive about it, right? Every meeting with a client is different every single day as they learn things and embrace things. Um, so I just try to um, bring all of that life experience, I think, to bear, and work with them. And it's kind of rapidly changing hats. It's like teacher, therapist, friend, business consultant. Like we just kind of go through, and I'm whatever they need in that moment. And it seems to be working. I mean, nobody's broken up with me, so I think we're doing okay.
A client retention is always the best, right?
That's right. That's right.
Just a silly question. You ever feel like you need to gentle parent your clients from time to time?
Oh yes. I mean, I have to gentle parent myself, but I my one client is 72 and she is still working full time. She has been running a side bookkeeping business for like 35 years.
Yes.
And She had cancer a few years ago, esophageal cancer, and it was a really, really horrible, rough ride for her. And she tried not to tell anybody that she was sick and maintain her business. And so she's writing a book about the experience of being a small business owner while having cancer. Like, do you tell people? Do you tell maybe just like your trusted, employees, your top employees that really run things for you? Do you tell your clients? There's all of these things that she went through, and she's very happy to write about it and get her story out there and everything. But she, she's we go through periods where it's like, hey, let's use this technology, and she's like, this scares me. Like, I don't know how to use this. Can we use this thing over here? And I'm like, that's what I used 10 years ago. This is the newer thing that's easier to use, and so sometimes I do have to kind of walk them through things and say, it's okay to do this. It's okay to do that. And sometimes I do get, especially with my 72-year-old, well, my dad always said, or my grandmother always told me this thing about work, and they're still trying to follow that. And I'll just say, maybe it's time to let that go. But my 72-year-old client always says, give it to me straight. He's like, do not soft pedal it for me. I need the truth. If I have written something that sucks, I need you to tell me. So it varies by client, but I certainly alternate between trying to kind of gently tell them something or deciding, okay, this conversation has dragged on long enough. I need to just be like, look, we're not doing it that way. You just have to you're judging moment by moment. But like my other client is a content creator. She's got an incredible following. She's a musician. She's a podcaster. She does many, many things. Shocking as a neurodivergent who is constantly bored. And I said to her, just from listening to your one podcast, can I ask you a personal question? And she's like, oh, shoot. And I said, do you have ADHD by any chance? And she's like, how did you know? I was just diagnosed 3 weeks ago and I don't know how to handle it. So she'll say, I keep wanting to do this. Is that a neurodivergent thing? And I'll be like, yes, here's a way you can deal with that, So it's a little bit of everything. I think gentle parenting is definitely in there for sure.
Nice. Okay, so jumping over to David because he looks like he has some stuff to share on the idea too. So what you got for us?
Oh, well, how to keep the clients and get them where they need to go quickest. I think it was the gist of your
how do you know what parts to refine on what they're working on? Like, so again, for ours, it's being able to let go of the total control of their story, right?
finding what they want to hide.
Okay, interesting.
Mm.
That's chipping off a big chunk generally. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's you gotta dive right in. Then, like as an example, for one person that I coached, they gave me like a 15-minute their full life story. They'd gone through all of this trauma, all these ups and downs, environmental, domestic, all sorts of stuff. Then when I asked, all right, so what do we want to talk about? Well, I really want to improve my time management. That doesn't match the story you just told me. So what's really going on? So it's being able to got to pick up on the emotion there, and you cannot hide from the emotion. And the thing that needs to be dealt with the most is the biggest thing that they are trying to hide from.
So follow up on that, and a quick one at that. How do you deal with the people that are open with everything, right? The people that are happy to tell you everything. They're not necessarily trying to hide something, because you're right. There's generally something that they got under a rug somewhere.
Sure. Somebody is happy and open to doing anything, then the way to hit that for me is got to go deep into the desires first. Got to take that multiple layers deep, and not just, I want more money. Well, what does more money give you? Oh, it gives me, I can provide for my family better. What does providing for your family better give you? What do you want to get from providing for your family? I want to feel proud. Okay, that's where we start digging in. All right, so what's going to give you this pride? What what is it about what you're doing now that is not giving you the pride? And then as they start feeling the things, gotta be able to pick out where the emotion is. Then you can start digging a little bit deeper into what's actually going
Nice. Okay. So, I mean, being able to pick out other people's pieces and hand them the stuff they need to succeed is like I keep saying, a powerful tool. Something that you can use relatively frequently to make your stories, your people better, right? Because if you find what you need and what you want to focus on, it helps you figure out the whole picture much easier. Talking about those 3 and 4D characters, you need to know the pieces, right? If you're only looking at the 2D figurine on the table, you're never going to see all the other cool stuff it can do. Younger, we are at the 50-minute mark, so we're going to do final thoughts and all that fun stuff. So we'll get to you in a bit. Wahaha. So final thoughts on the episode. Last ideas you guys want to share about the piece of me idea. Adding yourself to the stories, all that fun stuff. We'll start with David because you just talked again. Wahaha. Um, and then we'll get to
on.
outros and all that fun stuff.
But adding a piece of me to the stories, to my stories. I suppose the thought that I want to lead off or leave us with is my favorite definition of mindset. I had a problem with the word mindset because nobody could ever nail down exactly what it is other than the only thing that's holding me back. So once I found this definition of it, everything started clicking and, got to go into the stories. But mindset is the stories you tell yourself about yourself.
Mm.
Nice. Okay, I'm gonna have to write that down for later because that's a good quote. Stealing that one. Sorry. Uh, Laura, what about you? Final thoughts on the matter.
Well, it kind of occurred to me as we were talking, having a PTSD diagnosis, one of the things that they do in therapy to help you heal is you have to find safety again after you've been traumatized. And so they'll say, well, when was the last time you remember feeling safe? And for a lot of us, like for me coming out of a divorce and abuse, basically, I had to think back before I was married. And before I was married, I was a teenager. So, really for most people, it's what did you do as a child? Do that again. Oh, I did loads of arts and crafts. I used to color all the time. Well, then get some adult coloring books. Get some, reread your favorite books from when you were little to remember those feelings of nostalgia and safety, and try to rebuild what safety means to you. And that's about finding a piece of yourself, right? That you've maybe hidden away or you've tucked into a cozy little box in the back of your brain that's like, this is a nice happy memory. I'm going to hold on to this. And now you can go back to those things. And I understand that that would be horribly difficult for some people if their trauma is from their childhood, right? But it's just the idea of figuring out where and when and how you felt safe last, and rediscovering those pieces of yourself and bringing them back out and kind of plugging them back into you and filling in the empty spaces. So you can start to, as we've mentioned a couple times, just trying to feel again and have a full range of emotion. I think that's kind of something I would just like people to kind of know and think about, and I think there's a lot of criticism of people who are really into cartoons or video games or things they think of as juvenile, and they're like, "You're 32. Why does your room have a My Little Pony poster?" And it's like, who cares? Who cares? It makes them happy. Leave them alone, Um, and I think that and the fact that that is probably so important to them to feeling safe, It's a necessity, and people need to be able to do that, I think, to refine themselves, even if it means going all the way back to childhood and figure out what makes you feel safe and happy again.
Interesting. Okay, I like final thoughts on there. Younger, final thoughts from you.
Final thoughts is we've been talking about putting a piece of ourselves like into the puzzle and everything, into the mix. I think by doing that you can lead by example. If you come in front of a problem that's ahead of you and you think to yourself like, like that, just a generic thing like, what would Jesus do, right? Or like, or whoever your inspiration is in that moment,
Mhm.
like what is the hero, right, that you would want to solve that problem, and how would they do it? And instead of that hero doing it, you actually stepping up and doing it and being that example that you set for somebody else, you know.
Solid way to be a piece of me, right? Pulling pieces from other people's books. I like it. And with all that, we're gonna get our exit bit from Laura and David, where we can find you again, what you guys do, all that fun stuff, so people know when to get a hold of you, all that fun stuff. So we'll start with Laura this time.
All right. Well, I am a business consultant and a marketing consultant. I specialize in helping unique people with unique ideas, unique needs. I literally do everything from starting your marketing from scratch, helping you brand, people who have a product or a service but are not business savvy, and helping them set up processes and structures and systems. I do just about anything that's needed to get your business going, and often to get multiple streams of income going. And I'm at laramckusky.com. And right there on my homepage is a whole list of buttons showing where I am all over the internet.
Fantastic. David?
I'm David Chambers, or Danger Dave. I've got a Linktree, Danger Dave Coaching. I've got, mostly you'll find me on Facebook. Search David Chambers, you'll see my name. I think the number is 3557, but who really cares about that? Also have a group there where I've been doing story coaching. It's Rewrite Your Stories. Just search for that and it'll get you to the right place.
Fantastic. For our stuff this month or this week, it's been a busy weekend. We had something yesterday, we have this today, and then tomorrow we have an event at our North Pole High School. We'll be hanging out there all day, causing havoc. Doing their little spring bazaar. And then we got a couple other things going on this month. We get some big announcements coming up, but we're keeping those under wraps for a little bit longer. Code for this month. What month are we in again? It's May, right? Younger, do you remember what our code is for this month?
Not you fool.
Not you fool. No, that was last month.
Happy fourth birthday.
It's happy 4th birthday. You got it. Let's go. Happy 4th birthday gets you 10% off at the website. Happy the number 4 TH birthday. All the fun stuff on the website. 10% off. Yeah, we got Monday and Wednesday next week our games. So if you guys are looking for more Power Rangers and our D&D game that Younger's running, go check those out. If you made it through the video, thank you guys so much for watching all this, and be sure to check out David and Laura. The links will be all attached to all the fun stuff. And before we get out of here for the final song, I need you both to pick a number between 1 and 8.
7.
7. Oh, man. David.
Oh, 4.
4. Okay. Well, you guys just missed the dubstep song. All right. Anyway, with adventure in mind, have a wonderful time. Bye.
We've never stood on common ground, yet here we are, still circling round. Different banners, different creeds, yet we both know what duty needs. The choices weigh like heavy steel, Honor bends, but does not yield. Not comrades, not the same, yet neither of us seeks in vain. You call me foe, yet meet my eyes. We both serve, we both fight, bound by duty, drawn by fate. On this field, we tempt our fate. We've bled, we've lost, we've burned it all, but neither one will let it fall. The war goes on, no end in sight. Still we stand and face the fight. The choice is weigh like heavy steel. Honor bends, but does not yield. Not comrades, not the same, yet neither of us seeks in vain. You call me foe, yet meet my eyes. We both serve, we both fight, bound by duty, drawn by fate. On this field, we tempt our fate. Strike me down or let me stand. Blood and dust will stain our hands. No victory here, no righteous name. Just warriors lost in war's cruel game. You call me foe, yet hear my breath. We both march towards certain death. In the end, no right, no wrong, just echoes fading in this song. You call me foe, yet me